Happy Father's Day from your Channel 5 family.
This is the CBS Evening News. Susan Spencer reporting. Good evening. The Big Seven are gathered tonight in Toronto for what will be President Reagan's 8th and final economic summit. And for the leaders of the free world, the theme seems to be don't rock the boat. So far, as Bill Plant reports, the summit has been marked more by security worries than by expectations of any big economic news.
This is Ronald Reagan's Sunset Summit, and very likely his final turn on the world stage, as leaders of the major industrial democracies gather in Toronto for their 14th annual meeting on the global economy. The meeting room in a bunker-like underground complex reflected the unprecedented security precautions here.
I've been on this force for 36 years, and I have never seen tighter security than there is in Toronto right now.
Rooftop sharpshooters and a 10-foot chain-link fence surrounded the convention center where the meetings will continue until Tuesday. Police detained one man suspected of belonging to the Irish Republican Army, but British officials said he was no threat to Prime Minister Margaret Thatcher. And skittish lawmen declared a security alert minutes before President Reagan arrived at his hotel, apparently a false alarm.
Our biggest fear is always terrorism because of the past history of summit conferences.
So far, the only disruption, a protest demonstration by groups who don't feel the leaders gathered at the summit are addressing the world's real problems. And in fact, no one expects much activity on major issues of trade and budget deficits at a time when the world economy is performing well and President Reagan is only months from retirement. Action is possible on debt relief for the poorest African nations. These summits usually have as much to do with politics as economics. Today, both the Secretary of State and the President seem to be hinting that U.S. action against Panamanian strongman Manuel Noriega might be the issue to overshadow this summit. Well, he left a distinctive impression that something is going on, sir. U.S. officials say privately there is no imminent U.S. action likely in Panama. If there are no surprises here, the next 2 days will be an opportunity for an elaborate farewell to Ronald Reagan and a final opportunity for him to claim credit for the success of his economic policies. Bill Plant, CBS News, with the President in Toronto.
One thing the president did not want to talk about today is Operation Ill Wind, the FBI investigation into alleged payoffs at the Pentagon. But the plot is thickening and the number of players is growing, perhaps reaching into the highest levels of the Defense Department. David Martin reports.
Network. It's an ethic within the Defense Department, an ethic that breeds an attitude that among the defense industry, catch us if you can.
And that apparently is just what the Justice Department is trying to do. Grassley said off camera that 100 is a ballpark figure for the number of indictments which could flow from Operation Ill Wind, the Justice Department probe of Pentagon bribery. A search warrant disclosed by the publication Defense Week provides a roadmap to part of the investigation. The warrant alleges that United Technologies had sensitive documents belonging to General Electric, its arch rival in bidding on contracts to sell the Pentagon engines for the F-18 jet fighter and the V-22 vertical takeoff and landing plane. The suggestion is that United Technologies got the General Electric documents from someone in the Pentagon, undermining the competitive process which is supposed to result in the lowest price for the taxpayer.
By having inside information leaked to one company where they will know that they can ease up their bid and charge the government more and still win the low bid. That's exactly the opposite of competitive practice.
The search of United Technologies' Washington office also sought documents relating to meetings with Melvin Paisley, formerly an Assistant Secretary of the Navy, now a consultant and known to be a target of the investigation. Paisley is closely linked to former Navy Secretary John Lehman. Now a key advisor to Vice President Bush's campaign, Lehman has not been identified as a target of the investigation, but his name keeps coming up.
Decisions in the Lehman Navy were really highly centralized in a few people right around the Secretary, John Lehman. And he had a very strong view about people who were with him and people who were against him. And some of the people who were with him maybe had a little shady characters.
So far, there have been no indictments, but if there really are going to be something like 100 indictments, then the full extent of this scandal has only begun to emerge. David Martin, CBS News, the Pentagon.
A few showers fell over some of the parched Midwest today, but for the most part, weathermen were talking only in tenths of inches, not a major break in the drought. In Nash County, North Carolina, the much hoped for precipitation brought only trouble last night. Marble-sized hailstones, which destroyed about 100 acres of crops, mostly tobacco and tomatoes. Some 15,000 people forced from the Springfield, Massachusetts area by a stubborn chlorine fire were allowed to return home today, but the fire smolders on, and 10,000 other residents, all those living within a mile of the plant, are still being kept away. Firemen have been unable to dispel the cloud of chlorine gas which formed Friday when hundreds of barrels of the chemical began exploding. That's an abbreviated CBS Evening News. Bob Schieffer will be here tomorrow. I'll be back later with the CBS Sunday Night News. I'm Susan Spencer. Have a good evening.
I'm Harry Smith. Tomorrow, Treasury Secretary James Baker from the Economic Summit in Toronto. Also, Jim Belushi and Cosby's Malcolm Jamal Warner on CBS This Morning.
This is CBS.